Hey, this is Amy with Flower Moxie. We're going to build a really simple bouquet using my favorite new rose, the Moab rose. So the Moab is grown by one farm in the world, Rosa Prima. They were the breeders. They created this breed. Right now they're not giving it to anybody else, and I don't blame them, but I'm excited to see more of it. To me, it's a little bit more of an interesting quicksand rose. I feel it's kind of neutral, even though there's a lot happening within it. You've got mauves, you have peaches on the outside, you almost have like some lavender and burgundy tones. So you can introduce it to a lot of palettes. This one we're also selling. This is called Espresso. So some people feel like this is a burgundy rose. I can see how it could be burgundy, but I feel it's definitely on the more burgundy rust side of things, not the burgundy wine direction. And we've got some rust ranunculus. So everything that I have here, it's Friday, it got in Tuesday, so it's all already blown. So what that means is it's open to full capacity, which is where you want to be for your wedding or designing with wedding flowers. You don't want tight, you don't want closed. So these rust ranunculus, they're definitely not orange, they're definitely not red, very similar to Espresso. And why I'm making this tutorial is because I want to show you that you don't have to have 14 variations in a bouquet to make a visual impact. Sometimes I think just, keeping the variations and the flower types down, you're going to create more visual impact. So yeah, let's get started. These are all cleaned, and I'm going to go ahead and build this in a spiral method, and that's what I recommend for you. It's always a little bit nervous. It's always hard to get started, especially when you're new and you're not an experienced florist. You're like, what directions do the stems go in to create that spiral? I learned an easy trick from Deidre and Jeanette at Kay's Flower School in Ireland. They say, tap the shoulder, bring it down. Tap the shoulder, bring it down. So what it's doing is it's forcing you to take the stems in a certain direction. And it takes a minute for that direction to form, but once you get a few flowers in your hand, you're going to start seeing that spiral. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hold off on introducing the ranunculus. I might introduce a few and keep them above, but what we're going to do is just get the flowers in our hand. I'm going a little bit more dominant with the Moab rose, and we'll see how we feel about it. It's going to pack a lot more punch because it's such a large-headed rose. And one thing to know is they blow out immediately, meaning they open immediately. These came in very tight and they haven't opened that much. So you're not going to get the biggest show and head size for this rose, but you definitely will get your money's worth with the Moab. I do think their vase life is a little bit shorter. My ranunculus, let me put this down. That's the one great thing about the spiral, is that you can just lay it down, pick it up, and you can easily correct the formation. So I should have done this before I got started, but do as I say, not as I do. These are a little bit soft. And a lot of times with ranunculus, the heads are so big, they cannot be supported by the thin stems that they have. So you have to wire them. So I'd say I have to wire about 50%. This one's not straight and there's some notches. So this wire is not gonna wanna, run up the center because ranunculus do have a hollow center. But what you can do, and this is what I'm gonna do with this one, I run it up halfway. So basically I insert the wire at the straight part of the stem, make the incision, and then run it straight up to get that head to straighten out a little bit. You can always feel it. So now I've got this wire stem situation, not a problem. I can just wind the wire around it. So when I build the bouquet, I'll of course make sure that the wired section of the stem is down in the handle of the bouquet. That way you can't see it. But this is a really easy way to fix it. So it's a lot more stable. I don't have to worry about it just drooping over on my bride. This one's nice and straight. I wired one of these. Ah, fantastic. Like when you have a good, like strong stem, it's very lovely. This one's on the cusp for me. I feel like I need to wire it because if I was making it the day before, which I typically do, by the next day, that stem and the gravity may take more hold and make that droopy. So it doesn't mean your ranunculus are bad. You just have to understand it's the nature of the stem. It's just, I don't know if it's because, oh man, sometimes it pokes through. You just have to kind of finagle it. It's so nice when it starts just gliding up the center. It's like when you're cutting wrapping paper and it starts to glide. People always ask, they're like, should you wire it the day you get your ranunculus? Or do you need to wait for the design day? Can the flower still drink? It can still drink. I typically wait unless it's bent. So sometimes you'll get ranunculus and the heads are so fatty and the stems are so thin that they can't support their own weight. So if that's the case, you have to wire it on day one because when it's bent, it means that it can't drink, like the head can't get absorption or water to it. So you definitely have to wire it on day one. But these guys, like we got in samples, so that's what I'm working with. So they've been, like we've roughed them up, taking photos of them. See how nice that is? Don't get ranunculus if you don't want to have to do this. It's just part of it. You got to be ready and willing to wire it. I need more wire. This wire is about, probably a 22 gauge wire. I probably wouldn't go below a 20 gauge. When you get into 18, I think it will be too thick. So you want it a little bit bendable so you don't tear up the center. Some people, there's two ways to wire this. I can't wire it the other way. Some people go straight down through the head of the ranunculus. I can't ever hit the hole. So I've got to go up through it. Oh, yeah, these Moabs I think are a little bit more delicate. Somebody had posted, I was posting about toffee roses and they're like, oh, Moabs, they blow out so fast. And they do. Within 1 hour, they were like huge. What I'm doing here is this was kind of closed. So because it's a dark one, I can lightly touch it with my hand, but see how we got it to kind of blow out a little bit better. I probably wouldn't do this with a white or blush pink one, but because it's rusty, I can open it up a little bit. Sometimes it's just knocking back a petal or two. We're gonna pick these up. So we've got some contrast happening here. And we're gonna make some adjustments. Then I'm gonna come in and add the rust ranunculus. And what I'm doing here is because this is in spiral, I can easily pull these up, push them down, and I'm not cross-threading stems or damaging them. It can handle the movement of the adjustments because it's in this nice, safe spiral. And when I say safe, it just means that the stems aren't going to get torqued and bent. So when you build it like a bird's nest, you can't easily adjust it. That is why the spiral exists. I was very spiral resistant. I had my own little way of building it. And I saw a few florists that I respect. They just kept going on about it. And I'm like, what is this spiral that you're speaking of? And then I started building. I just kind of thought if I built in spiral, it would only be roundy-moundy. I've been wrong before. Okay. So I'm going for a really like organic shape. I'll probably pull in these last few. And let's come in. So we have this spiral. You notice as I built this, I didn't pick up the ranunculus. That's because these guys are dwarfed compared to the Moabs. I didn't want them to get crushed. I already know that they've like been abused this week by having their picture taken 800 times. And so what I'm going to do is just hand place these and let them float above and kind of be the dancers. So what happens is I just relax my hand and I let that ranunculus find that kind of spiral, and I can just glide that stem on in without damaging it. I think I need to change the placement of this one. Notice how I'm twisting. When I make adjustments, a lot of times I will twist the flower. It just helps it ease out. So I relax my hand, kind of like my hand is a vase, and I'm not stressing about the formation right now. Notice it looks a little wonky and you don't see me getting my panties in a wad over it. That's because I know at the end I'm really going to do some adjustments. I just want to make sure I get the colors in the right place. So sometimes when I'm adding flowers, I'll hold it horizontal instead of vertical, just so it just is a little bit easier. Still a bit wonky, it's okay. And I just want to hand place where these go because I want some clustered, I want some dispersed. I don't want like a big concentration of color, of like rust color. And that's why it's kind of hard mixing two very, like, they're contrasty, but I think the Moabs can handle it because they're so large and dominant in size. What I probably wouldn't want to do is introduce a cream or a white. That would just all of a sudden be the dominant focal color, and the other flowers would lose dominance. When I was a new florist, what was all the rage? It was like white roses and those dark purple callas. And you know, I mean, it's what people visually liked at the time, but I just kept having wedding after wedding, and I would look at the pictures and it just looked like a soccer ball. So a lot of times when I'm creating a color palette, I'll have a bridge color, so you won't get that harsh contrast. Okay, so now the rust has like dominated the Moabs. I've got a few more to add. I need to make some adjustments. First, let me adjust my bra strap. Okay, so we're actually not very far off from where I want to be, but I'm going to elevate these Moabs and make them a little bit more visually present. These two are right beside each other, so I may not need that one. Let's lower this one. So I'm kind of creating a bit of a stacked arrangement. I've got a big concentration of dark right here, so I'm going to come in, bring this at an angle. I'm still sticking with that spiral. I'm not going straight up and down, because when I would bind this arrangement, it would bend the rose, snap the stem, which I've done hundreds of times. Okay, so I like what's happening here. I have a concentration and I might want to keep it, but it might be a little bit too much. I'm really loving this. We'll bring this guy down low. Bring this guy up and let him dance. Let's fill in this area with a Moab rose. Yeah, and I think at this point, it just depends on like how tight or loose you want to make it. So because we have this stacked, we're gonna have like taller ones in the back, but I like kind of pulling up a few in a very exaggerated way. And it's kind of an art. I feel that you have to look in the mirror and say, like, is this zany in a good way, or does it just look like I didn't know how to place this flower? I have this friend, she's like the best at, like, she'll just come in and be like, bam, and it works. But I can't ever quite achieve that. So I feel I'm a little bit more conservative in my placements. So I'm kind of getting where I want to be. So I feel, see how this is too heavy? That up a little bit. You'll think something is like baller, and then you'll look at it in the mirror and you're like, no, that does not work. So it's just a matter of looking at it in your hand and looking at it in the mirror. And even though we're using, you know, 2 colors, 3 varieties of flowers, it makes it less expensive. But sometimes, like when you're working with these contrasty colors, it doesn't necessarily make it easier because you got to disperse this appropriately because, oh, I really love this. Like, it's very, very focal, but I do like it. A little bit of a hole. So I really like this organic feeling to it. You know, we don't want it perfect. We want it to feel a little bit more natural. So down here I have some squishiness happening. Oh, I guess I didn't have that one gripped. Where do you belong? Maybe then right here. It's about making it on different planes. So I noticed I had like kind of 3 on the same plane. I needed to get some adjustment there. There we go. Ranunculus stems, let me move my hand up the handle. There we go, okay. Ranunculus stems, especially sometimes I have to cut them down to wire them. So yeah, if you have a squish one, let me go back to it. Sometimes it's like a necessary evil. I have to have one kind of buried because it's like supporting the rest of them. But as a rule, if something's squished, then just get it out of there, meaning it doesn't belong. But it's hard with these Moabs because it's like you can breathe on it and it will be squished. Okay, but I'm bringing that up a little bit. There we go. There's that really nice stacked look. We've got this guy sunken down there, but I don't know. It's this balance of like, okay, you're kind of squished feeling like you're in a garden versus you need to be removed. So it's a fine line. This is what takes forever, is just tweaking. It's not always the actual building, but I really like where this is at. So I've got a little bit of a hole back here. I build things one-sided. I know that you've heard me say this, so I'm just gonna put this guy back here as like a brace and kind of finish it off a little bit. Even though I know that he's a little bit more hidden, that's intentional. But I know you've heard me talk about this, but if this is your first time to watch one of my videos, you may have not heard me harp on this before. I build things a little bit more front-loaded for my clients, and that's because, you know, you're gonna lay it down when you're taking pictures, and if it's, you know, 360, you're probably gonna lay it down on a different side each time. So it's just easier if it has a little bit of a flat back. That way it kind of rests around the body. You can move it a little bit easier. So that's why I do that. But I really like where it's at. God, I love this. I imagine this like long, soft, sexy, thick ribbon. It's all, like we're getting to the holiday season. Ooh, okay, I feel like yes, I think that can work. Can it work? I don't know. I'm like trying to design like Leah. She's like the world's best at popping in something weird. Yeah, I like that. I don't want to get too out there on the other side because I don't want it to be like antenna. But this is where we get like more visual interest, and this is just personal taste and then just having an eye for composition. Okay, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop because y'all are sick of seeing this go down. We're gonna tie this off. I'm feeling a rubber band. I feel I need something stronger than a Chanel stem. I feel like a zip tie might be too harsh for this ranunculus, but the most important thing to me is that it keeps the formation. So if I have to introduce a zip tie, I'm gonna. Okay, so when it comes to rubber band, I take the rubber band, I hook this stem. Let's see if I can wrap it around. Okay, that was not a strong rose. See if we can wrap it around twice. All right, we're not hooking the same stem because we wrapped it around twice and then I broke my rubber band. Great. I'm gonna try a zip tie. Hold on. Okay, 11-inch zip tie. I'm gonna relax my hand, run it around the palm. This way I don't have to change my hand placement. Gonna make sure everybody's included. Bring it to the back and kind of ratchet it down without getting too harsh. You don't want to just pull it so tight, but that way we have this like kept formation, and it's a little bit more of a minimal bouquet. Let's bring this down. Because I didn't ratchet it too tightly, I can still make soft adjustments. So if I need to like eke something up or down an inch or so, it's fine. And if you don't like the formation, you can clip the zip tie, add a different one. I'm prone to cutting stems excessively short. This feels pretty good. I don't think I'd go shorter than this. I don't like long stems because the client can't move as easily with it. And so this is a bit more of a petite one. I think that you come in, add a few more Moabs, get it a little bit larger, but I think the trend is clients are shifting to something a little bit smaller. So what I have here is about 15 to 18 roses. I have one bunch of ranunculus, and overall this costs less than $100 to make. So if you don't have a large budget, I would say don't go buy a lot of inexpensive flowers to get a lot of variation. I would say buy the bougier ones, keep the variation small and minimal, and it will definitely look more elevated going that direction instead of mixing a bunch of colors. We built this in a spiral method. It didn't take very long to build. I sat and adjusted it just to kind of get a different formation, but overall took less than 30 minutes to build. I think that this is very DIY and beginner friendly, and I think that it creates a lot of visual impact and it's very beautiful. Make sure you like and subscribe. That helps small businesses like mine, helps me to create more content for you, and we'll see you next time. Let me know if you have any requests in the comments.